All right, guys, today we are talking, we're kind of taking a little bit of a turn. We're going to start talking about finances and obviously some of the mathematical side of finances. But today we're focusing on kind of taking control of your finances. And as I was looking at some of the information the text has available for you, it talked all about how, it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, people still suffer from divorce and life crisis and medical problems. And so what we're not talking about taking control of your finances in the sense that you need to have a whole bunch of money so that you can be happy and healthy and wonderful and all that. That's kind of more the your quality of life. What we're talking about is just taking control of your finances from the basic aspect, which really what it comes down to is knowing what you make, and considering what you spend, so that you can live within your means. Okay. And that's really the benefit of, that's what we're talking about when we say taking control of your finances, that we want you to start looking at what you have coming in, what you have going out, so that you can live within your means. And your means might be outrageous. Okay. Your monthly budget might be $10,000. Your monthly budget might be $1,000. The important thing is that you learn to live within what you have available to you. Okay. So just a couple of tips. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. You will with Mr. Thorley. In fact, you're going to spend the whole year working with finances and him. But some of the few things the book wants us to mention for you is some of the simple basics are knowing your bank balance. Keep track of what money you have, not just in your checking everyday account, but keep track of what's happening in your savings account. Okay. Know what you're spending. In particular, keep track of what you're spending on your debit card. It's really easy to lose track of where that money's going when you're not handing people actual money. It also talks a little bit about don't buying on impulse. Really think first, which is, I think this is probably one of the hardest things for all of us not to do, is buy on impulse. And then making a budget. And that's one thing we'll talk a little bit about today. And not just making a budget, but actually not overspending it. Okay. So example one. Calvin isn't rich, but he gets by. He loves sitting down for a latte at the college coffee shop. With tax and tip, he usually spends about $5 on his large latte. He gets at least one a day, and about every 3 days, he has a second one. Yeah, right, Calvin, you have a second one every day. He figures it's not such a big adult indulgence, is it? Well, let's look at what he's spending. He's spending, on average, he gets one a day. So if we say there's 365 days in a year and he's spending $5 each day, then our 365 times 5 comes out to be $1,825. Now, Calvin is claiming that every third day he has a second one. So if I take that 365 and I'm going to divide that by 3. So we have about 121 and 2/3 every third days. So if we times that by 5, so we're going to take 121.6 times 5. And that means he's spending another, let's say, $608. So if I add that together, if I add the 1825, that means in a year, he's spending $2,433 on lattes. Now, I don't know about you, but that amount in a year for a college student, that could pay 5 months' rent. For someone that owns a home, that could be 2 payments on their home. For someone with a brand new car, that might be 8 months worth of payments on a new car. Maybe even more than that, depending on how good their credit is. So that $2,000, even though it's $5 a day, sometimes 10, when you look at it across the year, that seems to be a pretty big indulgence. And maybe for Calvin, it isn't. Of course, this is a very relative question because maybe $2,000 for Calvin isn't a lot of money in a year. That's no big deal. But for some of us, that $2,000 might could really offer a lot of other options for you. Okay. Another example here, credit card interest. Cassidy has begun keeping her spending under better control. She still can't pay off her credit card. She maintains an average balance each month of $1,100. And her card charges 24% annual interest rate. So 24% annual interest rate means that usually a credit card doesn't charge you annually. They usually charge you every month. So you would take that, divide it by 12, and you'd get 2%. Okay. Oh, look, that's right here, which it bills at a rate of 2% per month. So usually credit cards don't bill you at the end of the year. They bill you every month. So you would take that yearly amount, divide it by 12, and get 2%. So how much is she spending on credit card interest? Well, if I take $1,100 and I times that by 0.02, I'm trying to find 2% of 1,100. So I times those together. 1% is going to be what? $11. So 2% is going to be $22 a month. So if I times that by 12, that's what? $264 a year that she's paying on interest alone, which again, $264, that may not seem like a lot for some people, but for a lot of people, that $264, they'd much rather spend on something else. Okay. Now, talking about budgets, again, we're not going to spend a lot of time, just a couple of basic things to think about here. First of all a budget is looking at how much money you have coming in, calculating what your expenses are so that you can see at the end of the month what you have left, if you have anything at all, or if you need to borrow more money every month to cover your expenses. It's basically making a plan for where your money's supposed to go each month. Okay, so step one of that is to determine your average monthly income. So you got to figure out how much money do I have coming in every month. And that might be from a paycheck. That might be money from, maybe you're getting tuition money from college, whether it's money that you're borrowing for college, or maybe it's money that you are receiving on a scholarship. But you figure out how much money do you have coming in each month. Then you look at what are your expenses? How much do you spend on food, on your car payment, on rent, on gas, on electric, on your phone bill, on insurance? What do you spend every month? And don't forget to keep in mind things like some things you don't spend money on every single month, but you need to plan for them in your budget. So for a college student, something like tuition, your books, vacations, insurance, holiday gifts, that's not stuff that you buy every month, but you need to, we call that kind of prorating. So let's say that every year I spend $2,000 on college books. Well, to figure out how much each month I need to cover that, I would divide it by 12 and figure out my monthly cost for books. Okay. Number 3, determine your net monthly cash flow. So you just take your income minus your expenses, and that tells you how much money you have left over. That's your cash flow to get you through the rest of the month. That's the extra that you have to put into your savings account, right? Because that's what all of us do. And step 4 is to make those adjustments when you need to. So a couple of examples here. In addition to your monthly expenses, you have the following college expenses that you pay twice a year. So you pay $3,500 twice a year for tuition. You pay $750 in fees each semester. So again, twice a year. And $800 for books twice a year. That's what each semester means. How should you handle these expenses when you're looking at your monthly budget? Well, again, we're going to prorate these expenses because I don't want to pay all of them in 1 month. I want to spread them out over 12 months. So don't forget that these you pay twice a month. So the $3,500, that's going to be $7,000 a year. Plus the $750 twice a year is $1,500 a year. And the $800 twice a year, that's $1,600. So you're going to add that together. 7,000 plus 1,500 plus 1,600 is going to be $10,100 a year. But we don't want a year. We want to fit that into our monthly budget. So you would divide that by 12. So I would take 10,100, divide that by 12. And that's going to tell me how much money I need to save every month for college. And this says I would need to save $840. We'll round that up to $42. About $842 in my budget every month so that when the time comes, I can pay for those things. College student budget. So Brianna's creating a budget. The expenses she pays monthly are $700 for rent. So here's her monthly expenses. So she's got $700 for rent, $120 for gas, $140 for health insurance. What a good girl. She pays her own insurance. $75 for auto insurance, even better. $25 for renters, $110 for her cell phone, $100 for utilities, $300 for groceries, and about $250 for entertainment. In addition to that, over the year, so her yearly expenses are $12,000 for college, $1,000 for gifts. We'll put college here. I guess we don't need to keep track of all of them. $1,000 for gifts, $1,500 for vacations, $800 for clothes, and $600 towards charities. Her income consists of a monthly check, so she gets $1,600 a month. So this is her income. And $3,000 in scholarships that she gets at the beginning of the year. So she gets $3,000 yearly. So if we take a look at her budget, the first thing that we're going to do, let's look at her income. $1,600 a month plus $3,000 a year. So we need to take that $3,000 and divide it by 12, which is going to give us what, $250 a month. So I add those together. That means she has about $1,850 a month to spend. That's how much she has coming in. Now going out, she's spending this much on monthly expenses. So let's add all those together. $700 plus $120 plus $140 plus $75 plus $25. I should have just plussed $100. Plus $110 plus $100 plus $300 plus $250. So when I add all of those together, she is spending $1,820 on her monthly expenses. Whoa, she's almost already spent all of her money. But she has her yearly expenses that we need to add up. So let's take that $12,000 for college. Don't divide yet. We need to add the $1,000 for something else. The $1,500 for something. I don't remember what they were for. The $800 and the $600. So those add up to $15,900. But let's make that a monthly expense by dividing by 12. So we get $1,325. So here's what she's spending every month. Here's what she's making. So let's subtract that. $1,850 minus $1,820 minus $1,325 is going to equal, let's see, we decided that was going to be $30 left over. So 1820, oh my gosh. 1850 minus 1820 20 minus $1,325 gives us a negative $1,295. So she is way over budget. There's a lot of money that she needs to make that she's not making right now. And she's going to have to find it somewhere. Whether she borrows that, takes out a loan, there's a lot of different options, but she's going to have to find, or maybe she makes more money, but she's not making enough to cover her expenses every month. So she's going to have to adjust her budget. And there's a lot of different ways. This is a very personal decision. Okay. There is no, here's exactly what you should cut out because everyone's situation is different. One thing that you can consider, though, is kind of what is average for someone your age to be spending their money on. So this is just a diagram of the average amount of money that people spend, or I guess what they spend their money on each month. And right here is at about a third. So under all three age groups, people are spending about a third of their money on housing. This right here would be 25%, 10% is right here. So 35-year-olds are spending about 10% on personal insurances, on pensions. I don't really believe that they're only spending 10% on entertainment, but hey, that's what this study came out and said, okay? So if you were working on a budget and you find that you have $1,500 available for the month, and you're trying to figure out how much you should be spending on each thing. One way you could do that is look at this and say, hey, you know what? People my age are spending about a third of their money on housing. So if I divide this by 3, if I find a third, that's about $500 a month I should be spending. All right, now that nonsense is over with, my drawing pad died, and that's what happens when your hotkeys quit working. So we're plugged in now, looking at the long term. So if I was trying to consider the cost of a car and what that means for my budget long term. So in this example, Jorge commutes both to his job and to school, driving a total of 250 miles per week. So that's probably going to be important. He drives 250 per week. His current car is paid off, no car payment. He spends $1,800 a year. So $1,800 per year on repairs. And the car only gets about 18 miles per gallon. Okay, he's thinking about buying a new hybrid that will cost $25,000. It gets 54 miles per gallon, and it should be maintenance free for 5 years. Should he do it? Well, let's look at what his old car is costing him each year. Okay, let's compare the cost of the old and the cost of the new. So if I take the cost of the old car, let's just look at what happens in a year. So he said he spends $1,800 per year. Well, that's an easy number to come up with. There's $1,800. That's on repairs. And then it says that he drives about 25 miles or 250 miles per week. So 250 miles per week. There's 52 weeks in a year. So let's take 252 or 250 times 52. So when I times that by 52 weeks, I end up with, he drives about 13,000 miles per year. And he gets 18 miles per gallon. Well, let's see how many gallons he has to buy. Let's divide by 18 gallons and see how many tanks of gas he has to, or how many gallons of gas he has to buy per year. So 18 miles per gallon. So if I take my 13,000 divide by 18, so that tells me in a year, he's going to have to buy 722 gallons of gas. And let's just estimate, depending on where you are in the world, in the country, let's just say about $3 per gallon. So that means he's going to spend, what is that? $2,166 on gas. And that was all of his costs, right? So if I add that to the $1,800, that's like $3,966 a year. That's what he's spending on his car, at least for the next 5 years, right? Because that's what the amount of time that this is talking about is for the next 5 years. Now, his new car would cost about $25,000. That's its total cost, right? And if I divide that, should we maybe, let's say he's going to pay this off in 5 years. So let's divide that by 12. So he's going to pay about 25,000 divided by 12. No, 25,000 divided by 5. That's 5,000 people. So he's going to spend about $5,000 a year on his payment for his new car in a whole year. So that's only 1,000 more than he's spending now. And then gas, he gets 54 miles per the gallon, which is about a third of which is about 3 times as much as he was getting before. So I can take this amount and divide it by 3. So 2166. Divide that by 3. Not that number. 2166 divided by 3. So he's spending about $700 a year on gas. Wow, that's amazing. $5,722. So even if he paid his car off in 5 years, which most people don't, most people do like a 7-year loan on a car. If you're smart, you won't do any loan at all, but we'll talk about that another day. So if he spends $5,700, he's paying how much more? 5,722 minus 3,966. So he's paying about $1,700 more a year for a brand new car that doesn't break down and have to get fixed. And if we split that up over a month, that's only about $146 more a month that he's paying for a brand new car. Again, it doesn't have to break down. It doesn't make screechy, whiny, clunky noises. And the breakdown thing is the one for me. I mean, all of this I can live with, but having a car that doesn't work when it's supposed to work is a frustrating thing. So that cost isn't a lot more. So you could argue one way or the other. I guess it just depends on your situation. Would $146 a month be worth it to you to have a brand new car? Okay, couple more examples. So the value of a college degree. So in 2017, the average salary for someone who graduated college was $67,000 per year. That's how much a college graduate made per year. The average person with a high school diploma makes $37,000 per year. That's a big difference. The college kids are making about $30,000 more every year than their high school counterparts, okay? Based on this data, how much more does the college graduate earn over the 40 years? So you take how much the college graduate earns, you minus how much the not college graduate earns, and you get $30,000. So you're just finding the difference there. So how much more, this is how much more they make a year. That's how I got this 30,000. But over the next 40 years, if I times that by 40, well, 3 times 4, that's 12. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. So that's $1,200,000 more in their lifespan working. A college graduate will make over $1 million more than their counterpart. That's a lot of money. And obviously that doesn't consider everything. That doesn't consider maybe you had to take off work for a couple years to go to college. But that's a pretty good estimate. And it all also depends on what kind of work you're doing before and after, whether you are a college graduate or not. But that's it. That's an average statistic right there. Okay. Again, I think that the key word there is typical 40 career average. Okay, cost of a college class. Across all institutions, the average cost of 3 credits in college is about $1,500. That's a pretty high average, especially because you're paying what for this class? You're getting 3 credits. And I think it costs you what, like $90 or something like that? I think even less. Instead of $1,500. So you guys are getting a steal. Between class time, commute time, and study time, the average class requires 10 hours per week. So this isn't for everyone, but for this problem, you spend about 10 hours a week in class, doing homework, traveling, whatever. Assuming that you could have a job paying $10 per hour, what's the net cost of the class compared to working? So the cost of the class is $1,500. If you had been working 10 hours a week, now this 3 credit class, let's say that this is over the course of, I don't know, let's say 18 weeks. And if you were working for 10 hours a week, making $10 an hour for 18 weeks, then that's going to be what? 10 times 10. So 10 hours, $10 an hour gets you your 100 a week for 18 weeks. So that's $1,800. So now be careful how you're looking at this. That could be considered an expense as well, right? If you're losing that money because you're not at work, not only are you spending $1,500 on the class, you're losing $1,800 on income. So what you're really spending is $3,300 to take that class. But if you're making 1.2 million more in your life, that $3,000 can seem pretty insignificant pretty quickly there. All right. Okay. Insurance, let's go ahead and wait. This video's running way long. Let's go ahead and wait. We'll talk about insurance in class, and we'll work on homework assignment 4A, which almost wraps up this unit, and then we'll be ready for the test.